This conference will now be recorded.
All right, the time being 4:45 PM, I'd like to call the meeting of August 19th, 2021 to order. Before we get started, if you are joining us virtually, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noise will interfere with the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I like it that way. All right. All right. Review and approve the public minutes of August 12th.
I think I had just one comment.
I don't see anything that stuck out at me.
Under Jeannie report on page 6 of 7, under the DOT construction, New Hampshire DOT, that last paragraph, the last bullet, I believe that there was some discussion on the LPA, and I wouldn't normally even suggest that it be put in here, but it was an item that we asked you to get back to us on. Is it LPA or some type of a certification that you and Leanne needed in order to run the municipal portion of the either bond or the project itself? And then I said, well, what was it? And then you would get back to us on it.
So I don't recall that, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't said. I just don't remember it. So I'll go back and look. But I do believe I did let you know that Leanne has already been certified in that.
Right.
She
Correct.
did that last year. So they suggested that I get certified as well.
Right. And then during that, I had questioned whether or not it was necessary that the town administrator, because prior to that, we had,
Okay.
when it was
Yeah.
Joyce and she was the town administrator, it wasn't necessary, but maybe there was something new
Right.
that transpired that DOT is requiring.
And now I do recall that conversation. So if you looked at my report, you'll see that I have a meeting with Kevin Russell next week, and he will answer all those questions.
Right. I get that, but I still think that when
Sure.
we ask of something, when we have a discussion in it and we're asking for a reply back, I think that's important that we have that in the minutes. That's
Okay,
all.
I'll check the minutes.
Other than that, I'm fine with the minutes.
The only there's a typo on that same page, 6 of 7, in the paragraph above where it says Town Administrator Report Continued. The date, it just says August 12th, 202 instead of 2021. It's just
220, so they just dropped, she didn't.
yeah, it's just a
answer.
bit, it's no biggie.
Yep. Okay.
But since we're on that page,
Make a motion to accept the minutes of Thursday, August 12th, the public minutes of Thursday, August 12th, 2021, as amended.
Second.
Second, motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. There's a note here. You said you have the non-public minutes available?
Yes, at the time that I produced the agenda, Gail didn't think she would have the non-publics done. She did get them done, and if you want to look at them, I can pass those out.
Sure. Is that okay with everyone? We'll just pass them out and get them
Works
done.
for me.
We're on a roll. Thank you.
I have a correction, but it's minor, so I'll let it go. I make a motion to approve the non-public session minutes of Thursday, August 12th, 2021, as presented.
There's second.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. Next, we have Senator Gaida. Hopefully you didn't go to town hall. Okay.
The guy is usually pretty
He's on top of things. Huh?
prompt.
And Jane, for those of you who didn't hear, we've rescheduled her to next week. I'll start on Selectmen's reports if you want.
All right. We'll go right on to Selectmen's report and then we'll switch back if we need to. So first up is Selectman Ruggles.
I will, in all of her humility and humbleness, Selectman Constantino acknowledged the fact that there were a multitude of people involved in making sure the senior center was put together. And with her humble demeanor, she would like to have us reconsider naming of the senior center, which I can understand. As I sent her in a text today, I do think that as we look forward in this, and she didn't protest it in the text message, that we look to maybe having a plaque somewhere. I said other than the restrooms, somewhere in the senior center acknowledging all of her good work and her support of the seniors in our community. I guess I will make a motion to rescind the naming of the senior center after Patricia Constantino. And in the future, we will consider a plaque that will commemorate her drive, desire, and support of the senior community in Tilton and the surrounding communities.
I'll second that. Jeannie?
Before you take a vote, could I read Pat's letter into the minutes?
Sure.
Please.
Actually, that was going to be a good idea.
So Gail, I will give you the the language, but I'll go ahead and read it. We'd like it in the minutes verbatim. Dear Selectmen, I was honored and humbled last week when you voted to name the Tilton Senior Center after me. After much thought, I must decline and ask that you reconsider the vote. The Tilton Senior Center and its success has been a collaborative effort of so many members of our community, from our executive committee, support from the selectmen and residents, and dozens of donors through the years. Each and every one of these stakeholders deserves recognition, and I believe keeping the name as it is, the Tilton Senior Center, best embodies our community effort and spirit in making sure our seniors have a safe and welcoming home to enjoy a meal, meet with friends, listen to music, and much, much more. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the honor, and by keeping the name the same, you honor my wishes and you honor our entire community. Sincerely, Pat Constantino.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Joe?
I'm gonna reluctantly vote for this. I think you are deserving of that honor. But considering what you've said, I would vote yes.
The heavy.
And I call the question.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Motion passes. Anything else?
I will cede the rest of my time.
All right, well, he made a ghost appearance.
I think he.
Yeah, I think yeah. Check out the library. All right, Joe Jessman.
We had the concert successfully on Sunday, and so far we've raised $975 towards the concerts. Yay.
That in total, or is that just
No,
after?
that's what the concerts get. We have to pay for the food.
No, but was that just from Sunday's concert, or was that that's cumulative?
No,
Okay, that's still great.
Cumulative, and we've been rained out 3 times outright and a half a time once. And Sunday's looking poor.
You got Henry coming for a visit.
That's what. Well, we'll deal with that when the time comes.
Or Henri.
The only other thing that I have is I'd like to make a motion to hold the selectmen's meetings at town hall again, effective next Thursday.
I'll second that.
The motion and a second.
I think that classically, historically, the selectmen have met at town hall. Being able to meet here has been wonderful because this is a great space to meet. But I think we should go back to town hall and meet at town hall. And if we do that, we don't have to mess with this wall every time we have a non-public session. That's all I have to say.
I thought we were waiting for new upgraded sound equipment at town hall before we went back there.
We've been holding meetings at town hall, planning boards, zoning board, various different boards, and the audio has been fine. The camera isn't quite as good, but with this picture, you can't hardly see any better than you can on the town hall camera.
Okay.
Tim, would you address that? Am I lying?
No, the audio and video are adequate over there. I mean, it's a distance, for video. So, and the audio sometimes, we'll have an issue, but it's much improved. And I'd put in a new system to run all that, as well as streamline the connections to the audio equipment. But we do have planned, to upgrade everything there, and we have to update the quote that we had, and we'll be coming to the board soon for that approval. But otherwise, yeah, there's the other boards and commissions meet successfully there. I'm not aware of any reason that the audiovisual wouldn't suffice for you.
John?
I agree with you, Joe. I think one thing is that if we do have a large public hearing, I think this is a little better suited with especially with, who knows where COVID's at, but the bigger space sometimes is better for like larger public hearings where there's more people to talk
We
and
always have
microphone.
this as a fallback. When we have really giant meetings, we get the room at the school. So we could certainly move to this anytime that we really needed to, I would think, or pretty much.
I think we'll. Who knows where COVID's going to be in a couple of weeks, but.
We can do whatever we have to do.
We all might be in our living rooms again. Who knows? So.
Don't jinx us.
I
Yeah.
hated the Zoom meetings. I
So
really
do
did.
I. So did I. Trust me, I hated them too. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving our meetings back to town hall effective next week, which I think is the 26th? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. So next, is it the 26th next week? I think.
Whatever
Yes.
next
Yeah.
Thursday is.
All right.
And I would stop right there and go to Senator Gaida.
Yes, Senator Gaida, come up. Nice to see you. Thank you for visiting. Just if you could press the button on the microphone and make sure you speak into the microphone so that
How's
it
that?
gets recorded.
That's great.
Thank you.
So it's, as always, it's a pleasure to come before the board as I've been somewhat in retreat because of the COVID mess and the rigors of trying to, work in the Senate distantly. We didn't even start meeting until basically June in person. So there are senators for an entire session that never met each other, which made things kind of interesting. As I'm sure you're aware, the House, much bigger body, had much more significant logistical problems. That besides the what I would consider the robust discussion over a number of issues, including the governor's powers and emergency and so forth. So those things are ongoing. Many would like problems solved instantaneously. We don't do that. We're deliberative in the legislative process, and it's good that way. So there's a lot of dissatisfaction with some elements of things, and that'll get remedied and addressed, I think, in the course of the legislative process. I know there's legislation coming regarding the governor's emergency powers, a number of other areas. I think primarily of interest to you is probably the money thing. It seems to be on the minds of many. We've done a lot to return money to the towns. We eliminated the statewide education property tax for a year. So that's $100 million that you're not going to have to pull out of your taxpayers' pockets. We sent $188 million back to towns. Specifically, probably one of our more important accomplishments was the final modeling of the returns to the communities of the meals and rentals revenues. For decades, it's been 40% and you've gotten 17. So we said, okay, we're going to develop a dedicated fund. All the meals and rentals taxes go into that fund, and 30% of that goes to the towns before another penny is spent. So it's not 40, but it is 30, and you're getting it this year. You can go online, or I can have Griffin send you this
30% based on what?
30% of the receipts of the state for the meals and rentals tax will
How
be.
is that by the person? So Nashua would get a huge chunk of that and say Tilton with 3,600.
There's a formula that's established, and I can get that to you if you'd like, but it's going to be
That
pretty
would be
much
great, 'cause
pro-rata,
we
proportional.
do send a lot of rooms and meals taxes
Sure.
to Concord,
Sure.
and there's a cost to that for the taxpayers here.
Mhm.
So I would certainly love to make sure that the formula reflects that.
I think it does, but I'll have Griffin fire you off the specifics of it, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be curious just to see,
Sure.
there's a town like, I'll take a town your way, like Warren, that doesn't have a lot of meals and room tax generation compared to say Tilton, which would generate.
Well, because
quite a
the
bit.
chair of the Ways and Means Committee is in Warren, we get double what anyone else gets. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
kidding. Just kidding.
Tim has his hand up in the back.
Senator
Yeah.
Tim
Yeah,
Pearson.
I just wanted to comment that it is particularly difficult to look at the distribution of the rooms and meals monies because Northfield, which has very little in terms of restaurants and hotels, receives double what Tilton does, and yet we have to maintain a police department, quite large in terms of per capita in the state. So our costs are higher because of the amount of retail that we have, and in particular the rooms and meals type of retail, and yet we don't receive any sort of proportional amount of revenue from that fund.
I can certainly look into that formula, and I will do that
Please.
and get it to you. And then if we maybe have some suggestions about how we could tailor it better, we take those, because we won't be filing until October in the Senate. September 14th through 17th is the House filing period, but we being slower and older usually are filing at a later period. So your revenue from meals and rentals is for fiscal 21 was 185.8. For fiscal 22 is 249.9, and for fiscal 23 is 258.2. That's what's projected based on our projected revenues that we've done. Revenues to the state are going robustly as they have. We typically are receiving in tax revenue overall about 25 million a month more than projected, and that's largely because of we were the first, I think, state to have our unemployment rate get back to almost, we're at 2.9% now, it was 2.6 before COVID. So we're pretty much recovered. Now, I can tell you, as I know you know better than I, there isn't a business around the state that isn't looking for help. There's a number of other factors that play into that. Of course, the availability of employees, the quality of employees. So that's something we really can't fix. We had a large influx. I think the meals and rentals tax, the real estate transfer tax is running 26% above projections. There have been so many houses sold, so many people fleeing the cities and moving to New Hampshire. I think I don't know where they're moving. I think more to rural areas. I don't know if they're moving into Tilton, but I can tell you that I think you're going to see an increase in needs for your social services, police, and so forth. That remains to be seen. So we sent 188 million back from meals and rentals and additional school revenues. We did the freedom accounts, education freedom accounts that tie money to the student, and the parent says to the student where they go. There's been some controversy over what that's going to do fiscally, but we have put in transition funds for districts that are concerned about the impact to their revenue. The Josiah Bartlett Foundation did a fairly extensive study into the potential impact of people moving their kids to private schools. And again, it's not everyone, it's people that are less able to do so, targeted to give them the opportunity to move their kids to better schools of their choice. That's ed funding. We added money to districts for the schools. We've added about 100 million in the statewide education property tax relief. I'm trying to look at the exact number here. 35 million in additional funding to the schools that are most in need. 30 million towards new school building aid, which has been stagnant for a number of years. Full day kindergarten, again. Of course, I think closer to home, Caleb Hill Road, after how many years? I think Gene was trying it when you were chair of finance. Caleb Hill Road, 3.2 million. That was in the budget this year. That's going to get fixed the way it should. So that was imminent last year, but the Republicans were not in control, so the money was spent elsewhere. It was taken out of the budget and put elsewhere. But this year, I made sure that it was in. So that will get fixed and take care of a problem that's been longstanding and I hear about quite frequently. Other than that, I mean, I could talk all evening, but I'm more interested in what you have to first ask and second tell me, because we're getting ready to shape legislation for the coming session. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
I am curious on how you stand on the issue of Governor Sununu's emergency powers.
It's a controversial issue because like never before that I've experienced, it is the collision of individual liberty with public safety. There is no pattern before us other than what was put in place after 9/11 that was specifically more attuned towards terrorist events and things of that nature. But this disease is not even a natural disaster. It's not a singular event. It's a continuum. So how do you deal with it? I think the public is apparently pretty happy with the way the governor has done it. Understanding that, there's the old saying, lead, follow, or get out of the way. He doesn't have the option for the latter two. He's got to lead. I didn't agree with everything that he did. Specifically, I was concerned about his spending of the money, the way he spent the funds, and understanding it was political. That the Constitution, Article 56, very clearly and unambiguously says that any funds appropriated will be done through the legislature by act or resolve. You could push that off to fiscal, same deal, but that was not done. And so I was concerned about that. I think you'll see some things addressing that coming in legislation this coming year. He didn't have a handbook to go to. So I think he did a pretty good job. I worked very hard most of last summer on the Governor's Economic Reopening Task Force, GERDF, we called it. And so we spent 2 to 3 hours most every day of the week for about 3 or 4 months. There were about 20 of us on that committee. And what we did is we took input from industries and businesses and asked, and pulled that together and presented to public safety and the governor a regimen of policies for each individual industry type, restaurants, funeral homes, whatever. A lot of hard work and a lot of research. And the industry participated. I think that was the right way to do it, that they were being the most knowledgeable about their business. They were the ones that made the suggestions. And of course, they had to pass muster with the folks at Public Health, up in Department of Health and Human Services. So, certainly a situation without precedent. I think overall, I think the governor did a good job. I think there were some things I might have done differently. As always, politics plays into it, but that's what we're here for. So. Further questions?
Just, one of the things that began to concern me is like Franklin Hospital pretty much shut down, went off to Laconia, and now that's bought out by Concord. You find even like childbirthing isn't done in Laconia anymore. You have to go down to Concord. A lot of other offices and healthcare in this area is starting to get less and less, and you have to go down to Concord for it. I'm not sure if it's a trend all over the state and how people even north of here are dealing with it. In other hospitals, are they closing other ones down or cutting back and going to more convenient care? But the convenient care doesn't have all of the necessary, specialty things.
It's a complicated issue. First, the problem is that our population has not been increasing. I think that's going to potentially change with COVID having brought, in migration of many people. And of course, it's a population density based business formulaic. If you don't have population, you don't have enough critical mass to provide the services that are specialties, obstetricians, right? The birthing, as you mentioned. I think this is not only happening in New Hampshire. I think it's happening anywhere that there's a change in the population and the demographics. I'm reluctant to get the state involved in anything like that. I think it's something that the industry needs to work out itself. I think what you will see is some considerable pressure to provide services back into areas because of itself, Laconia, Lakes region, my mom worked there. I mean, she was killed coming home from there in a car accident many years ago. So didn't have the critical mass or the management skills. I don't know which, but clearly now that Concord's there, they're a much better financially established institution with resources that they can project back into this. That consolidation is happening in terms of ownership. What I think is important is that we make sure that these services get put back to the degree that they are financially able to do so. So again, that's a transition in process, and we'll see where that goes. But
I'm keeping an eye on it myself.
Sure.
Concern.
Anyone else? No? Yeah.
Okay, my takeaways are to get back to you folks, the formula on meals and rentals and see if it needs some adjusting. And again, we've got some time because we don't file legislation until October. So, but it's coming quickly, or right at the end of August.
Yeah, it's
Amazing.
right around the corner.
You're going to get back to us with that, and then if Tim has some suggestions, he'll get back to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Griffin will get back to you. I'm going to call him
Griffin,
as soon as I
okay.
leave here.
But
I
Gene-
tell people Griffin is the senator.
love that
I
man.
come and speak to people. He's an amazing, amazing individual.
He sends
Hey,
you
he
all-
is
yeah,
amazing.
is.
Yeah. he really
Yep.
is.
Jeannie's got her hand raised.
I was just going to say that Senator Guida is going to get a tour of the facility with Lieutenant Gilman and Chief Pizer after he leaves here.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Enjoy.
Thank you. And again,
Thank
you have the ability to contact me. I know you all have my contact
Uh-huh.
info, so
Sure do.
holler if you need anything. Okay?
You're always there when we need us,
Thank
when
you.
we need you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Back to selectmen's reports.
And I see the balance of my time.
All right. That makes me, I'll bring up the ugly question of the day. I brought it up last week, masks. I know everywhere you go, it seems like more and more businesses are requiring masks. So, of their employees, not necessarily the public. And I don't know the difference, but I just thought I'd bring it up for discussion. Or you can pass it on and we'll go on to something else.
I'm a math guy because, well, basically in social settings, if I have to get close to people, I've got terrible lungs, but that's my choice.
Right.
And I don't feel like I should make that choice for other people.
I think given a couple weeks, I think the choice is going to be made for us. Given that the schools are going back, they have decided not to make that choice for a couple more weeks. The bus drivers are required to do that now. Even in our office, we're required to wear a mask. I think in a couple of weeks, the choices statewide, they're going to be made for us. I think just hang out there for a while, and I think
Well,
it'll be happening.
Perfectly fine with that. Just bring it up for discussion. That's all.
I think it's a good question. I think it's a great question.
I mean, my
Mhm.
company brought it back over the weekend.
They did?
Yep. Market Basket next door to where I work. They no longer have signs on the windows, which I thought was interesting. And today, because I'm in there every day, today their employees were wearing masks. So I just thought that was a change because usually most of their employees did not wear masks. So, but you know, no signs for customers. It was like 50-50.
Right.
And then even at work, it's 50-50. Half the people are wearing them now and half of them aren't. So,
Last year, during the school season, we were required to require students to have a mask.
Yep.
And this year, we cannot require them. We can say masks are preferred, but we can't say you cannot get on the bus because of it. That's what we were told yesterday. So it's
tomorrow will be something else.
unless the superintendents feel different, which they'll let us know in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Joe?
I do have one other thing, and it kind of ties into something that you brought up last week and the week before that, and then that's the parking at the concerts.
Oh,
And it was an epic fail this past weekend. But after talking with Titus and Officer Paulus, cones were distributed, and the cones will be set up with no parking placards placed between the sidewalk, well, you know where, between the sidewalk and the handicapped restroom. Right before the concerts ever start.
thank you.
It was very disappointing to me that happened, because I said I'd take care of it, and I hope that I have now.
Well, I was going to let it rest for the week, so thank you. Good. I'm all set. So John, you're next.
So, last Friday, Friday the 13th there, it wasn't a good day for a couple of trees. Met with AJ Dupree, who is the urban forester for the state, who does a lot of work, no charge for bono, just goes out there and works primarily with towns on areas that are, not a regular forest, but, sidewalk trees in the centers of towns and parks and all that tend to get a lot of abuse. I'll start with the tree that was brought up to us. And as he pointed out, and I'll tell you, we met at 9:30 and it was just shy of 4 hours. I walked around with them. Paul Rushlow was there. Kevin Duvall was there for a while. Catherine couldn't make it. But we walked around and looked at a lot of trees. So anyway, he looked at that tree and expressed that we have loved that tree to death. That tree originally was part of 3 trunks that under wind started splitting. And eventually when we saw that, if you look up, there's guy wires that we used to hold part of it together. That piece finally died and that was cut out. Then that stump that's sticking out just started making a nice home and everything started living in it. It was trying to bond back together. We've also attached a guy wire from there to a light pole and bolted through that tree. There's also some scarring on the bark, which signifies that that tree's been struck by lightning.
Wow.
He took some probes, I don't remember what they are, stuck them in on the inside this far in a tree that's that thick.
That's not good.
Not good. And so he says that tree should be removed as soon as possible. He has no financial interest or anything like that in it, just says put out the bid, tree's gotta go. You can try pruning all you want, he said, but it's been loved to death already, so it doesn't need more love, it needs a good.
Where would we get the money for something like that, Tim?
In the interest of safety, we have to.
For the tree
And
removal,
that, where do we get it?
tree removal.
Yeah.
There are a couple of lines that would work for buildings and grounds. Pretty sure we could find that.
No, he referred to the other part was the stump. It's not a real big stump because it's pretty well rotted out already, but it will be a stump. He said they do have, if somebody's going to do that and remove with the crane, you can specify that they understand that they put a stump grinder in or have them cut it off really, really flush, put some holes in it and let it disappear, or you cut it off a little higher and turn it into a table. So you've got those options. And that's it. The other thing he pointed out was essentially we have 2 trees there. We have red maple and we have oak. Very little diversity. There's a birch tree, there's a couple other small trees. But the problem with that is that when, such as with the ash borer or elm disease over the years, if you get one disease that hits oaks, you just wiped out 50% of all the trees on the island, which hold the island in place. Never thought of that. Or if you got something that affected red maples, a disease, you'd wipe out 50%, or if you had both, they're all gone. So he said diversity is a good thing to start looking at for the trees and to assure that the island will always have a good root structure to keep it an island.
Did he recommend
He said work on some recommendations and do that.
a replacement?
He's going to be putting a whole thing together, but I'm sharing the urgent information. He said that the other part of it is that the ground there is highly compacted, and that's going to affect the trees and their health a lot. That there's something, and Kevin talked to him, they have some kind of compressor, and he would gladly loan us this special tool, and they put it in the ground and they blast air. And boom. You must know something about that. Yeah. And that loosens up the soil, gets it to breathe again because the roots need trees. He suggested on areas that we'd like to see that there are roots that we use a 50-50 loam compost mix, which Kevin said he could put together, and not use any equipment to bring it out there because the worst thing we can do is drive vehicles over that. And then there's other areas that he suggested we just put plain wood chips over there and put wood chips underneath the picnic tables and also rotate where they are and not keep putting them in the same spot. Yeah, so and then loosen up and reseed there and put wood chips where the new ones go. So it was very good. He's going to put something together. Very busy man. We walked all the way down through the center of town and he studied every single tree in depth and looked at it. The trees downtown, his concern is for the health of them is that when they were planted, they may not have been planted in the best method, but what we've done is we've piled mulch up on them and then we have a lower sidewalk. So when it rains, that little square is sloped away from it. So the water doesn't soak into where the only place the water can get to the trees. So there's a couple things can do to solve that. And then the other thing was to prune the branches that are starting to head towards the buildings there before they get too big and start working on that. Paul's in tune with this. And again, he said diversity. We have some type of pear and crab apple.
Right.
We should not be always trying to replace trees with exactly what we have there because it encourages disease to come through. Next one looked at was Municipal Parking Lot over by where Squantum used to be. You familiar with that? There's a large dead tree there. He said it may not be yours, but it is a municipal parking lot. So you need to notify the owner of that tree. It's 100% dead and falling over, and it will damage cars.
Which tree is that? Which parking lot?
You know where Squantum used to be?
No, that's right.
Yeah, okay, so behind the old Citizens Bank building, Grove Real Estate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and their little parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay, if you were coming out the front door of Tilton House of Pizza and went straight like that, you're looking off. I
Yeah.
haven't really noticed it, but it's right there. And he said it's a type of tree. You don't necessarily need anybody to do it because there's no wires or anything around, and it can just be dropped by DPW, provided we have permission from the landowner. But he said that's essential because anything that falls on it, there's always vehicles parked on it 24/7, and it's obvious it's dead. He went on, he looked at every tree in Mill Park, and I learned a lot. He said they're in great shape. They're doing really, really well, that they've been caring for them very well, and they've been pruned well. Some suggestions, they were talking about cutting some out or raising the branches up, and he's going to work with Paul Rushlow, who he knew, and it was like a DOT reunion or something there.
Yeah.
So all in all, that looks good. There's another tree between Mill Park and the Black Swan that's ash that's dead from the Emerald Ash Borer got it. So the trees, they could affect the trees in Mill Park, which we have. He said, however, he can get us a matching grant to have all those trees treated, but the matching grant would be in-kind labor instead of money, and all he wants is somebody from Public Works put cones out or whatever, and I put him in touch with Parks to arrange for that, and Bob Hardy to work it out, and they'll cover the whole thing. The next tree was of concern was the Soldiers Monument. There's a large tree inside our fence that is dead and dying with large branches falling over onto the road. That is a hazard. It's not as big a hazard as the one on the island. But I meant to bring him, going from the top of my head, I had a whole map of every tree and wrote down everything he was saying about it. And I'm putting it onto a form. He also suggests that we keep a good track of whenever we go in and prune the trees and look at them to show that we do care about the trees and that we do periodic pruning and removal of dead branches, which is all that's required for any type of liability from us.
Say that
Yeah.
was recommended when we did had the person come and speak to us on the bridge, remember?
He said, anytime you do any work on them, just write it down and log it. That you came in, you looked at them.
Right.
I removed 3 dead branches.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be everything. There's some invasive species that have to come out. I wrote them where they are and I'll everybody knows. So that was very interesting. Very good. And he's willing to come back at any time in the evening to share any information with any of the selectmen or the parks or anybody else that would be interested in more about the trees. So that was good. I'm trying to think what else is going on here? I'm just going to leave it at that. That was enough, I think.
Joe?
The tree on Island Park needs to come down like now, right?
He said it should be coming down as soon as possible because people, while we're there, people come over at picnics and stuff like that.
Well, I make a motion to remove the tree.
I'll second that.
Second.
All right.
And furthermore, I would say that Jeannie Forrester, hello, that tree that has to come out whammo, can you arrange that?
Chainsaw ready.
All right. Any other discussion on removal of the tree on the island? Jeannie?
Just clarification. Would you like me to get 3 bids? Is there somebody you want me to use?
I personally would like to use a bid process.
Mhm.
Well, I understand the bid process that if you have a situation where it's emergent, are we putting ourselves in a liability situation? If we do a bid process, it's probably about 3 weeks from now,
Jeannie?
at least.
Well, if you recall, probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we had chippers look at that tree that you're talking about, and they had recommended it be removed. And they had given us a quote at that time to remove the tree. So I can go back to them and see if that's changed.
Well, I don't know how to put this, so I'll just say it. I think we need to, I know the tree needs to come down, but from what John just said, it sounded like there's 3 trees that really need to come down. One at the parking lot, one at the Memorial Park, and one at the Island Park. And so I think it's better to put together, tag them with tape, put a proposal together or our RFP and tackle it that way instead of just doing it piecemeal, which will tend to be more expensive because you might get a better price from someone that, they have to move from place to place. But my other concern on the island is how are you going to get anything out there? You can't. You have to have a tree climber do it, and then they have to haul it across the bridge. And how are they going to do that? How are you going to get rid of the tree on the island?
Well, because of the kind of the situation of the bridge, they're going to have to use a crane and they're going to have to use it from the other side, get permission from the business on the other side. That, if you recall, that's what they had recommended
Yep.
before because the equipment that they wanted to take across the bridge was too heavy.
Am I under the understanding that the one on the island is more emergent than the other two
He's-
in the other
he-
area?
He set priorities. The one on the island, because anything that fell off of that would likely be where somebody would be. Most likely during windstorms or anything like that, or heavy rains. That was the number one, he said. The second one, he said, would be down at the Soldier. He says not as urgent
Mhm.
because it doesn't have that frequency of somebody
Mm.
directly underneath it, and people traveling under are in vehicles.
Right.
But that needs to come down. Or continue to, somebody from Tree Fort. The one in the municipal parking lot, I don't believe it's even ours. So it should come down. That could be removed by Public Works because there's nothing around with that's in, that can be dropped right into open space. But we don't necessarily, I don't think we own it. So we'd have to find out the owner and get permission from them or request the owner to do it.
So are you talking about the parking lot where Home Serve is now? Used to be
Elm Grove,
So that's the Gaudettes. They own that.
back of Elm Grove to the corner, to the left-hand corner, where we lease the Sano property
Oh,
in the back,
okay.
the Sano property by
Okay.
the railroad track. Right?
So, yeah, so the thing would be to notify the owner that there is a tree that's causing a hazard because it's their responsibility, if it is their tree, that they are responsible for removing that. However, we could offer, to have them go and do it because if it's, Sarno, we've been maintaining the lot, we could help them
We
out or
lease it.
something. Or we lease it, yeah.
Right.
But that's something to figure out. But that's, he said that was a big concern because it's come 100% dead. Take a ride by and take a look.
At best, I think that if we could call Chippers and see if my opinion, call Chippers and see if that quote is still good. I don't think it would be in New Sky in Northfield.
Mhm.
And at least we have two and see the availability of each of them. And we have the two. If it's emergent, then we need to get it done. And then we'll at least have the two prices.
Scott?
New Sky has a crane, that's why I said New Sky.
So with it being pressing, especially one on the island, I would remind us the one near the Soldiers Monument that starting in 2 weeks, we're going to have a lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers walking by that as well.
Good point.
So just something to think about that right now we've got car traffic, but we're going to have a lot of teenagers walking in and under that. While I understand the bid process, I think that, and I don't know, I don't know how an emergency situation might be able to supersede that so that we can get things that could be an imminent danger to the public taken care of as soon as possible.
Before today, it was no big deal. Now that I know if a branch on that island falls and heaven forbid strikes a little girl, I can't live with myself.
No, I get it.
And I understand what you're saying about putting together a package, but I'm guessing October. Because,
I think either way, you're going to be October before you get that.
and that could be, but at least we're on the job.
Yep.
Once you are aware of the situation and don't do anything about it or wait, then it's our
We
liability.
could put danger tape up.
Yeah, right.
Then you don't use the island.
Yeah, you could talk to him about that. He discussed what liabilities are on that, and he's urban forester. That's all they do is deal with trees. I'd be more than willing, or he would be more than willing to talk to, give him a call. But stump. What about stump?
About the what?
Stump.
Oh, stump. I thought you said scum. I'm like, what? Well, do we need to make a motion on the tree first? We had the motion on that.
Yep, call the question.
So all those in favor of removing the tree on the island, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed.
Question of the bid, now the question of whether or not you're gonna go for the bids, or you're gonna just have Jeannie call and figure that out.
Well,
I would make a couple of phone calls because, you know, who are you going to get? You have to call around to see who's available, right?
who has a crane, I guess, because it's gonna be the requirement.
So that limits us considerably.
Yeah, who's available, who can do it, when?
So is that consensus?
I think just have to leave it
Yeah.
open to do the best you can.
Yeah.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Yep.
You want to, now, what about the stump? How do we,
Cut it as flush as you can.
And then drill it and put a surface layer of chips over it or whatever. And that would be my
Yeah.
preference.
Is that a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
Can you tell me what that was consensus on?
The stump, removing the stump of the tree at the island. Do we leave it as a stump, or we can make it a table, or are we gonna cut it as low as we can and just inject it with something and bury it?
So what was
Make
the
it-
consensus?
cut it as close to the ground as possible. Close to flush.
So if you could take a dump truck over the bridge. No, just kidding.
Hey, maybe you can float the logs down the river and roll it. and-
No, we can do it like the
Do
old
it,
days and
bring
just
it to the
float it
ramp.
downriver. The lumber mill somewhere down
You
there.
do not want that stuff. No,
No.
at all.
All right. Anything else, John?
That's it. That's good enough.
Good enough for now.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, next up is Pat. Making a bad dash for the chair.
Yeah. Cut,
Yep.
flush and
Yeah.
drilled and whatever.
Okay, I have one thing. I met with Tim the other day. Take one and sit around. The other day, and, up with a figure MOU for the senior bus for the town of Northfield and Samberton. So I went ahead today and changed the MOU. The changes on the MOU were under number 3, every effort will be made to accommodate all riders on a first come, first served basis. On number 7, I changed, there was just a duplication of and 15 minutes afterwards, after. And then the biggest one is number 12. The town of either Samberton and Northfield will pay per person, $10 per person for services rendered to their residents based on the numbers, which will be clearly documented by drivers via a monthly log to the town of Tilton. And then the charges will be assessed in arrears, meaning the month back. So I would like to have that approved. So the numbers that are just kind of generic going over that Tim and I discussed was that these are for Tilton. So it's going to change a little bit for Northfield and Samberton because it's going to be a little bit lower. Our annual fuel and repairs, we estimate will be around $3,500 for fuel and repairs. Our total ridership average monthly is around 41 for ridership. So that's about 492, so approximately 500 per year. So That's how we came up with the figure of an estimated expense per ride is around $7. And then we added the $3 in for capital replacement costs down the road if we needed to replace the bus in the next 5 years, 6 years. That gave us the room. And keep in mind too, the next 6 months or so. So this would be billed to the town of Northfield and the town of Samberton. This is not from us, but the bus driver will keep a daily log of the people that answer the phone will keep a log, but we want to make sure the mileage and the time and all of that. The bus driver will keep a log of how many times they go into Northfield and that. So I would like approval, and we only have one spot for it to be signed, so. We can,
I make a motion, we approve the memorandum of understanding and authorize the chairman of the board to sign in our stead.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I have a question.
mhm,
So if Jane Smith calls up, says, I need a ride, I'm gonna go to music night,
mhm,
and she lives over by exit 22 in Samberton, it's
Mhm.
$10, correct?
correct.
Okay. Jane Smith, same person, calls and says, I have a doctor's appointment at Concord Hospital in Concord
Mhm.
on Friday at 1:00. $10 for that ride,
If a driver's available.
if a driver is available.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Mhm.
So some rides you're making, some rides you're gonna lose.
Right,
This whole thing, I think, is a service to our seniors.
right.
No, I get that, but if we're gonna start running at a loss and
Well, we'll find out right quick.
but if it's a loss because of the people that we're serving that aren't our taxpayers, that's where my concern is.
We don't charge our Tilton residents.
No, I know that.
Okay.
I understand that, but if all of a sudden we're getting more people from the other two towns that we have a memo of understanding with, and it's actually costing us money.
I don't think that'll ever happen.
I'm just expressing it.
I get where you're coming from.
I guess I'm putting it on the record that I have a concern that, okay, if someone lives way up on 132 and they got to go to Concord Hospital for an appointment, there's a good chance that could cost us more than $10 to drive them down. Just in gas alone, it's going to cost $10 on a bus. I mean, I don't know what the fuel mileage is on that, but I don't probably, 20 miles down, 20 miles back. So, John?
Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is what towns are eligible for this to
Tim-
get,
Tilton, Samberton, Northfield and Samberton only.
okay, it doesn't say that on there. Right.
Because it will be written in there when they sign it. Do you see it says it's blank? The town of,
Halfway down on,
Okay, so what I was concerned with is, let's say somebody in Guilford goes and they take one of these and they sign it.
has to be signed by us.
Where do we sign it?
actually, there's no spot for that.
Yeah, this is for nothing.
This one?
'Cause in the other part was Joe's motion.
This one goes first.
I didn't see that.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
This one we all approved, pass that around to. That one, we all said we were okay with
Remember something
before,
like that, yeah.
right? And then these are the rules and regulations portion of that,
I remember doing that, yeah.
right?
Good. I'm good with it. You answered my question, so I'm fine.
So the other part was, so the motion authorized the chairman to sign this. This isn't for Tilton to sign. So you just want to accept the form, right?
Yeah, withdraw.
that portion of.
Draw that portion of my
Okay.
motion. Good deal. I saw a line on the back.
Looks good, Pat.
So
Great job.
it would be, the chairman would need to sign that one, though.
We all sign that one, don't we? Or
The
is it
top one.
only one?
I forget.
It's just-
What's,
Is there just one line on that one?
on the
I think it
MOU?
says, yeah, Town of
No, the
Tilton
one that has the
authorized
seal
official.
on it.
So there's one authorized official and then there's an authorized official from the other town, whatever
Right.
other town it is. So there's,
So the agreement part, this is the transportation service agreement, and the other one is the agreement between the towns.
Sure. All right. Any other discussion on this?
So this is the one that Eric would sign.
Oh, we
But
did.
not right now.
I'm just showing Jeannie.
So that form, we're good. The form we're talking about now.
Yeah. Make sure there's no other discussion. Go.
In my experience, the boards of selectmen would sign these, not one person, but the entire board.
I'll sign this. I'll sign it under the name, under the town of Tilton. We don't have to just have this.
Because I'm thinking that maybe the
We can-
town of Sandwich or Northfield might all wanna.
We can all sign it under here. We don't all have to just have one signature there. We can all fit our signatures around it. It doesn't matter.
Can we just move the signing part to the back side and put all 5 lines?
Yeah, we can correct it and just do a sign now on it tomorrow, right? We could do that. We'll motion to do it. And then we'll just put 5 signatures here and then just,
We're still working
Fix
on
it.
the first, that other one. We got a motion, right?
Yeah.
oh, they're together. These go together.
Ultimately, they do all go together.
These
Yeah,
are,
but the motion that we have on the table is that one form.
Yeah.
We already
Yeah.
got the other ones done.
Yes. We've already voted on the other one a while ago. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
all right, so we'll fix the signatures on this one for all of us.
Yeah.
We'll send it out,
Thank you, Pat. Anything else?
unless you have it printed tonight, but.
We'll pass that.
Anything else for you?
Hold on a minute.
What's this go? Oh,
MOU.
No, I don't.
all set?
I'm all set, thanks.
All right, thanks. Good on. Oh, look at that. We're a little ahead of schedule. I know.
Don't jinx us.
All right, I make a motion to enter non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a public hearing, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted, and RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, C, matters which if discussed in public would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of this board, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to include any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant. We expect to be back into non-public session at approximately 7:30 PM. Do I have a second?
Second,
Multiple seconds. Roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Jessamine, yes?
Pyra, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
We are in non-public session at 5:55. I'm gonna go use.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, take two. The time being 7:38 PM, I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public minute of the non-public minutes of August 19th, 2021, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain.
Testament second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Town Administrator's Report. You know, Jeannie, I meant to tell you, or the chief, that the traffic light at New Car, it changes for no reason. At like 1 o'clock in the morning, every time I come through coming home,
New
it
car or
changes.
Honda?
New Car. Ever since they paved the entrance, it's like they put it on a timer and it just, I don't know, but it, 'cause I-
The
Come on up here.
Oh,
Yeah.
the one
okay.
at Plana
I like
Honda
that.
always gives
Back there
a
all the
left
time,
turn
and it-
signal
Would you like
Mhm.
an animal
from the one
burger?
going westbound, even when there's no one there.
you know, yeah. I
Right,
gotta-
everybody, you ready?
Yep.
Everybody got my report?
Yep,
Yes.
just read it. Oh my goodness, it's long.
So the audit agreement for the recommittal warrant was drawn up by Roberge and Company, and I believe you've already signed that.
Mhm.
DTC drew up an indemnification agreement between the town
Mhm,
and the Duvals. I believe you've signed that,
mhm.
so you're good to go there. Meeting with the Conservation Commission has been scheduled for September 9th at 6:15. Chuck sent an email to the board with a list of mitigation questions. I take it from the email that he'd like a response prior to the meeting, or so you're ready to, yes, talk about it at that meeting. And he did say that the Conservation Commission is planning on having an open hearing on the town's priorities for mitigation efforts at their September 20th meeting. UNH Civil and Environmental Engineering seniors are soliciting submissions for a capstone project, and I'd like to submit a project idea involving Tilton Island that would look at the erosion effects and proposed remediation improvement recommendations. We tried this, I want to say 2 years ago, Johanna and I, on a sewer project, and I don't think it was specific enough. And I've looked at the criteria again. I have not talked to UNH. I wanted to see if you even want to entertain this idea. Basically, seniors are looking for projects, and I thought this would be a
Yes.
good one for them.
Yes,
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
please.
The draft request for bids for curbside collection contract, you all should have a copy of that. We have a proposed schedule that you would look at it this week, and if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. And we could finalize the contract at next week's meeting. The bids would go out the following Monday to those 3 companies that you had identified in a previous meeting, with the due date of September 22nd, opening the bids on the 23rd, awarding the bid on October 21st.
Question.
Yes.
It's my understanding that there's a new company in Laconia, Lakes Region,
Never heard of it.
yeah, they're in, I'll get the name. It's Lakes,
They don't just do dumpsters, do they?
no, it's a collection.
All right.
Yeah,
Not familiar, but if that's what you're suggesting to,
I believe that they do Guilford, Gilmanton, Bonstead. Just a thought.
If there's another avenue, we might
Yeah.
as well send the,
It's a brand new company.
If you
It's had a
can get-
couple years, Lakes Region Disposal, something.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I have seen trucks for that. I just thought they did like
Bright blue.
dumpsters.
Oh, I can Google it.
Oh,
I can Google.
Um,
I learned how.
So anyway, awarding the winning bid on October 21st. And if you take a look, let me know if you have any questions. We would like to finalize it on the 26th. And I just want to say that, you know, Kevin and Tim and I worked on this. And Tim did a lot of work on it. He took a RFB, our request for bid document that needed quite a bit of work, and he cleaned it all up, and we all worked on it together, but he really kind of did the bulk of it, I would say. So I thank him for that. Town clerk tax collector has requested that the board reconsider the vote for the July 26 minutes. 22nd minutes, I'm sorry, 22nd minutes. Because it did not include verbatim her letter to the board. She wanted it verbatim. I told her that we could attach the letter to the minutes, but she felt very strongly that she wanted them verbatim in the minutes. And so she's asking the board to reconsider the vote on the July 22nd minutes.
Is there a motion to reconsider?
So moved.
That's the motion. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Ruggles. Any discussion?
So she's just asking it that we place her letter verbatim into the minutes. That's it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the
Reconsidering the vote.
reconsidering the vote of the July 22nd minutes?
First.
Say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
So now we would just need a motion to ask that the exact language be included in the July 22nd minutes.
I'll make that motion to include her letter in total with the July 22nd, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Motion the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Tilton Northfield Aqueduct Company requested the town enter into a liability waiver agreement relative to the work being performed on Academy Street. I've looked at the document. I did send you an email copy, and a hard copy is in your packet. You may want to look at this for a week, I don't know, but Tim and I met with Kevin and felt like this was not in the town's best interest to enter into this agreement. We talked about possible alternatives was to do nothing, to offer to buy some of their land and build a reinforced wall without removing the existing wall, repave next year the road and be, you know, that would be it, or create a one-way street with no on-street parking, or close the road.
What is it that,
They want a $50,000 surety bond. They want, is that what you were going to ask?
I have it here. I haven't had time to
Yeah.
read it though.
So I don't want to, at
But
this,
can we just put it to next week and then with
We-
that gives it,
Yeah, there's a lot here.
yeah,
right,
there,
we can put it to next week. At this point, Kevin has put off, the equipment was ready to be delivered this week.
oh,
He has now put that off. The window is closing for the time that he can do the work. And so it's very likely that the project at this point is not going to, and I don't say this to pressure you into anything. I'm just bringing you, kind of making you aware. One of the things that it's likely this is not going to happen this year based on this. One of the things they asked for is that if there's any damage to their 8-inch water main, that the town would pay for it. They would fix it and the town would pay for it. And it's an old, very old water main. And Kevin had also expressed to them in this meeting, as I understand it, that he might want to or need to do some work at night. They had made his hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Kevin had expressly asked for, time after that. Although when I talked to John Chase about it, he said he didn't think that would be a problem. But the bigger issue is the surety bond. Tim was very much against that. He said that, that shouldn't be asked of the town. And Kevin was very much against this idea of us being responsible for an 8-inch water main that's been there since the 40s or the 50s. If any movement of the soil happens and
Vibration. Well, there's another thing in here that I just saw. On axis number 3, it says between 7 and 7 daily during the month of August and October 15th.
right. And
Does that mean we can't work on it for 45 days?
in September. And I think, and I did talk to John about that because I saw that as well. And he said he thought that might have just been a typo.
Have we put this towards our attorney?
I have not because I didn't feel like that's something I should spend any money on until the board weighed in on it. I mean,
Ridiculous.
well, what we're saying is what you have your DPW director, your finance director, and your town administrator saying is this is really not a good thing to do.
Right. It's not a good thing to do, but there may be a resolve within this that we could come out of without holding up the project, is what I'm trying to say.
Right, but at this point, the project's already held up is what I'm saying because this, I was not willing to sign off on this. I don't have the authority to sign off on this. The board would have had to do that. Even
Did they just come up with this just now?
it happened at the last meeting. It had never been discussed before in the first meeting that I had been in. And in the last meeting, Kevin came back and said that they wanted some kind of agreement. And so
Last meeting, meaning a month ago or a week ago?
I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I couldn't be there. It was on a Monday because I had a selectmen's meeting of my own. So I think it was like a week or 2 weeks ago. And
Well, I guess the project is on hold then.
I mean, certainly if we want to, we can try to negotiate on this document and see if there is any movement on their side. I really don't know because I've only talked to them about a couple things.
The water pipes makes me nervous.
Yeah,
I saw what
why
they did
would
on
we
Cedar
fixing
Street
their
when
water? Right.
yeah, I mean, that was a
Not, I
cluster.
agree. It's
I
not.
rather take the time and do it right. And I'm only one of 5 though.
So maybe Kevin and Tim and I can go back and talk to the water company and see if there's any movement, any negotiation that there's a halfway point to this.
It only worked from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
August and October 15th.
I think that was it.
I think it's through October,
Well, I
but
think it
even
is, but
still,
what it states here is,
I know, I get it, but it's still,
I mean, if we had the, wouldn't this be an opportunity for them to fix that 8-inch main line while we have the road open? I mean, every other time we tear up a road in town, they fix the water mains. Why
that's
not?
correct.
Why not do it? Doesn't sound like there's going to be any attempt to do that here.
Right.
And if
We're
you,
not charging them to open up the road.
well, no, we did it on Cedar Street, they did it on Spruce, they did it on
Highland,
Highland,
Linden.
Linden, they did a bunch of roads and they went in, they replaced the lines and we didn't charge them for that. Tear up the road and give them the whole summer to do it and pave it at the end.
Everything at this point, Kevin has put on hold because he actually had everything, when I talked to him the other day, had lined all this up, ready to go.
Yeah.
And it was in the last week or so when they talked about the agreement. And then I went back to John and I said, well, what kind of agreement? Because we both have the same insurance company, Primex, right? So then he gave this to me, I think, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days ago. And after I read it, I said to Kevin, where are we at? Because he was having the equipment delivered on Wednesday. And once that equipment hits our soil, we're paying the rent on it. And I didn't want that equipment sitting there while we're negotiating this. And 3 weeks later, and we've paid for equipment sitting there. And the same thing with the soil. He had all that lined up and ready to go. He was going to start the job on Monday. And I said, well, I can't really do that until you talk to the selectmen.
Oh, John. That was a good project.
What is typically decisions, requirements like that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I understand from their perspective, they're trying to protect their water main. I get that. I don't know. Again, my suggestion would be that I can have our attorney look at this and see what he says.
If their water main needs replacing, they should be replacing it at the time when this is open. Except they're not gonna be going near the water main except to build the retaining wall until we do the actual street. That's probably what the issue is. So they're doing the retaining wall first,
Well,
and then they're doing the street, which is where they're
Right.
gonna be
If you're
replacing
doing
them.
any type of compact, I think he was mentioning about compacting
Yeah.
behind that wall.
Right.
And any vibration
Right.
could, if that's a clay pipe,
right.
It is.
let's get it right.
So
Oh, sewer, that's right. You're right.
we
John.
could do,
It'd be old.
right, we could do two things. I could send it to the attorney and have him weigh in and see what he has to say about it. He may say, if they negotiate this, this, and this, you'll be okay. Or we could go right to the water company and say, based on the three of us, what we think is non-negotiable, and see if there's any movement, because
I'd go right to the water company. I think that would be the first. I think that would be the move. I'd go first.
For property.
so is that what you'd like us to do, is go back to the water company?
Yeah.
At this point, I will tell you, I would expect that the wall's not going to happen this year.
Bid.
Yep.
That's right.
Is there a consensus or?
Yeah, I
Yep.
think.
I'm a yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me see. We received a request from a new resident for the board to waive his penalty fee for late payment of his taxes. He advised he didn't receive his tax bill and just received a notice of being late with a penalty of $16.50. He wants the board to waive that. The town clerk tax collector advises against waiving the penalty. She said that for this person, and then everybody's going to want their penalty.
I need a little bit more information on that, because there have been several times in the past where they said that they didn't receive the tax bill, and one time it went to an ex-husband and the ex-wife never gave it to the husband, and situations like that where we found out that that person was absolutely right and we did in fact waive it. So,
All that she could tell me was that the bills went out, went to that
mhm.
house. That person said that they never got the tax bill. I did ask the person, I said, because they're new resident in Tilton, I said, well, did you come in to register your car? Did you come in to register your car? Did you come in, register to vote? And he said, yes, all that. And he said he wasn't looking for a tax bill, so he wasn't aware that he had missed a tax bill, and he wasn't aware that he owed property taxes until he got the late fee notice
And this is his first time for a tax bill? First time
in Tilton. Yeah.
in Tilton.
Apparently he lived here before he bought the house.
It's probably like a rent-to-own situation maybe, or he was a
I've-
renter.
I have no idea.
I've seen so many scenarios that have been in a different way, but I mean, where it's not been recorded and it's more information.
What specific, so I know what.
Well, the certified, did they sign for it?
No,
We see
they
a
don't.
late notice, so would a late notice be certified?
Did a late notice go out,
Yes.
but it wasn't certified?
No, I thought you were asking about the tax bill. I thought you said,
No, but a
Right.
late notice went out.
Yep.
Was the late notice certified?
States he received the late notice.
I have no idea. I don't know how Cindy does it.
So if the late notice is certified, then we should have a return receipt signed, right?
But that's not, his argument is, he acknowledges he got the late notice. What he's saying is he didn't get the first notice that he owed any money. He's not disputing that he got the late notice. He's saying he didn't get,
He didn't
The
get
tax
the bill.
bill.
He didn't get the bill.
right.
He's a new resident, right? Did he move into that prior to the tax bills being sent out or after?
The tax bills went out, I think they were due July 1st, so it would have been sometime in June,
In
right? And
June.
I think he said May 25th is when he moved into his new house, I think. I have to go back and look at that.
So he was living there when the tax bills went out. So he's claiming he didn't get a tax. bill.
Right.
Well,
Actually, closing on and the seller is responsible for that.
Hopefully.
I mean, if it was rightfully mailed to them.
as long as
This
we
is
did
the-
our part.
This is,
Where was the first bill mailed to? I guess I'd like to see that address.
I believe it was mailed to the correct address. That's my understanding.
Was it mailed to the bank or was it mailed to, like, did the previous, because if he just bought the house, did the previous homeowner have it as part of their mortgage, which means it would have gone to the bank?
I see there's too many questions here and it's third-party information, which no disrespect to you because
No, it's $16.50.
it's $1,568.
Right, he has
He
a
wanted
penalty.
to
He's
waive
disputing
the
the $16.50.
$16.50.
We're only waiving the penalty, not the tax.
And
I totally misunderstood that.
I'll make a motion that we waive the penalty.
Ruggles second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay.
Motion passes.
all right, we received an email from a resident asking if the board would consider talking with Comcast to get a tower in Tilton and possibly paying for half of it. The rates continue to go up and residents need relief.
Go for it. I'm all in favor of it.
That means us paying.
Go for it.
Means us paying for half of it.
Comcast.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna pay for anything,
Well,
but go
that's for the-
talk to Comcast to come into Tilton, please.
Not gonna be, it
They
may not,
won't do it, but they will, go. Wait, hold on, I'm enjoying. Yes,
Oh, no, I
please.
ate those down quick.
Oh, there's one more.
Oh, is there?
Please, talk to Comcast and see if they can come into Tilton. Love it.
Not at any of our expense, though.
Not at our expense. However, see if they'll come in. Bravo to you. That would be a kudo. That would be a very good kudo.
doesn't mean
To
your
you.
rates are gonna get any better, doesn't mean the
In
services are
answer
gonna
to
get better. It just
this
gives you,
particular request, no.
Okay.
We're not paying for anything, but see if they will come into town.
I don't think we should have the town administrator chasing Comcast to come.
Nope.
She has spare time at night.
No, we shouldn't have her
I
chasing.
think the resident should go and get.
Mhm.
There's specific reasons Comcast isn't here.
Or just get,
Infrastructure is one of them.
or just,
Right.
or get a group of supporters and have them all contact Comcast.
It won't ever happen.
But
I would love it.
all right.
Comcast isn't going to reply to one person. If they've
Why-
got 60, they might see
And
that.
why would Comcast not come to Tilton?
Infrastructure.
They've got to put down all
It's
the
a
line.
monopoly. They own the pole. Atlantic Broadband owns the poles.
No,
The right on the poles.
The right of way. Technically,
They would
Wires
have to
has be
pay-
certain distances apart.
They have to be a distance away from the phone company and a distance away from Eversource. And Atlantic Broadband already owns that portion in between.
that space.
how they getting away with it in Guilford and Tilton and Laconia then?
Why with all
Because they
laws.
had the room, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have. the
And
room?
they spent
great many
millions
of
and
the areas
millions
we
and
do not
millions
have
of
the room.
dollars for infrastructure based on the amount of people that would buy their service. They could afford doing the infrastructure up
Gotcha.
there.
I also
But in
think,
Tilton, they
yeah,
don't.
I also think you'll find in some of those towns it's underground. Because they don't have overhead wires, it's underground.
The other thing is a lot. And if copper
Yep.
wires,
Yeah.
years, so.
So is that a no, don't talk to Comcast?
No, you don't
No,
need,
you have
you
other
have other
things.
things to do with your time.
All right,
I'm
Is
a
that-
yes, but that's okay.
fine.
okay.
Maybe in your spare time next to the pool or something.
You can sign up with the resident to be on the petition.
On the
with
tower,
Comcast.
by
How
the way,
about
because
that?
cable's on a tower according to.
Okay, then.
All right, we received an email from the Northfield Town Administrator with a letter attached from the Northfield Selectmen. The letter expressed disappointment about the fireworks event at Surratt Park. I attached my communications back and forth with the Assistant Town Administrator as well as the letter from Northfield Selectmen. And you'll see, I was actually, I think I was on vacation the day I got the email, but I was checking email. I contacted Kevin right away and asked him to send the crew over. They did go over and clean up Surratt Park. I let the assistant administrator know, expressed, apologies. And there was one other issue about why wasn't a permit filed and why wasn't the chief notified? And after I did some research, I sent back an email, said there was miscommunication, won't happen again. Again, sorry for it, wasn't intentional. And then got the letter from the Northfield Selectmen signed by all three selectmen, asking, at least it looked like at the end, for an apology from the selectmen. So
I think we owe him an apology, quite frankly. We discussed all of the things. We discussed having Public Works clean up Surratt Battery Park the next day, and then the Parks Commission was going to go to the arch
They
and clean
did.
up the arch. I understand that. Well, somehow the communication got lost because if Kevin didn't know that he was supposed to clean up Surratt Park,
but he did it that,
he
when,
did when you called him.
right,
right?
when did the,
Back in July.
August 7th was the
so was that a
fireworks.
Saturday?
That was a Saturday, so the following Monday would have been the 9th.
So he went on the
Monday morning.
the Parks Commission went Sunday.
Yeah,
Would we have sent our DPW on a Sunday to clean up? We would have paid them overtime to do that.
that was my
That was my
understanding.
understanding.
That was
In order to be able to use Surratt Battery Park. I was unaware of the application process, but there was talk about the police detail and stuff. I don't know why it got dropped on our side.
They
And,
didn't,
and I would certainly,
I thought they said they didn't need a detail after.
Yeah,
all
they
this.
said they didn't need
There
one.
was,
And you confirmed it with us.
yes, and I don't know if I should say in public session or non-public session, because I was told that someone was going to send me a form to complete. I never received the form, the
Okay.
application. I never received the application. And got caught up with everything with work and
Mm.
doing our board. And so just, was told that they were going to send it to me. And that was it. I had talked to the chief on the phone, and, originally they were going to charge us detail hours. And then once he looked at it, he realized he wasn't going to have to charge us. I had communicated with the town of Northfield, letting them know that the August 7th was going to be it. And that's when that person told me that I was going to get a application to fill out. And I never got it. So I apologize to everyone and anyone. I still don't know where the application is on their website, so I looked.
maybe if we apologize for the lack of communication and vow to do better. Because I think we should do better, certainly. If they sent me the application's in the mail and I don't get one, I would follow up. Unless I didn't, and then that's what we have here, which is just a glitch in the communication, so we can fix that. Because I want to be able to use Surratt Battery Park in the future as well.
Yeah, we have Christmas coming up.
That's right. That's right.
Somehow we need to mend the fence here because we have Christmas coming up.
Mhm.
Communications.
So you'd like me to draft an apology letter?
Yeah,
I'll go over there and apologize in person at their next meeting.
you can deliver the apology letter in person.
Fine.
There you go.
I will be more
I'll
than
go with
happy.
you.
I'll
I
even
got an
go with you
MOU
and
to-
apologize in person. I want to,
Have to
Get this
press really
straightened
hard.
out.
It's in triplicate.
I can understand their disappointment.
I understand it too. And,
I understand, but I also don't understand. They could have just, there's a different way to handle things too. Without having to send us nasty grams. There
just
is
took
a-
the word right out of my mouth.
There's a different way to handle communications between two towns that are trying to mend fences. That's all. I just have a different way of doing things.
We're going to use that other
And we're
way.
going to take the high
There
road.
you go.
Right.
Okay, so I will draft something up for the next
Thank you very
meeting.
much.
Thanks,
You are
Jeannie.
welcome.
We know you took every bit of the high road on that one.
For next week, Craig Weissman will be in front of the board to talk about the issue of parking down at Winnisquam Market. There would not, it's just to have a conversation with you first. It wouldn't be a public meeting, just have the conversation. You saw we got the first tranche of money from ARPA. And I had a good conversation with one of the folks at ARPA about what is eligible, and Tim and I are going to work on that. I'm going to get his feedback and come back to you with some ideas next week. And finally, this is a personal request from me. I am on the board of an organization that we worked very hard for the last 2 or 3 years to create a transitional housing shelter for victims of domestic violence. And it's called Sadie's Place. It's named after the donor's dog. And it's a transitional housing for women. And they're having the ribbon cutting on Thursday, September 16th. And they asked me if I would speak at the ribbon cutting. It's at 5 o'clock. So I would be back here at 6 o'clock for the Selectmen's meeting. I missed the first hour.
I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Maybe you
Please
should
do.
just take that evening off. It's slowing down.
As we head into budget season. No.
You jinxed us. Just now, you jinxed us.
Jeannie, can I ask a question about your first FYI bullet? So with that wheelchair crosswalk piece,
Yep.
might that be something that we take a look at in terms of the mitigation?
Mitigation.
Yeah, the rebuilding of the road.
So
I'm just putting it out there as something that crosswalk has always concerned me.
Yep.
And I don't. To make it more visible, to have one of the button things that you press where there's a light then flashing because someone wants to cross.
$20,000.
So
I did reach out to DOT and got some good feedback, and Bill Lambert, I think some of you know Bill Lambert, he said that this is a tough one to answer. Clearly, the existing crosswalk location and sidewalk geometry present a barrier to wheelchair users that is unacceptable. That being said, if the current crosswalk location is more natural, intuitive place to cross for able-bodied pedestrians, moving the crosswalk may address one wheelchair user, but leave all of the other pedestrians crossing in an unmarked location. So I can share with you the email that, because I had 2 guys from DOT weigh in on it. And one of them is the ADA coordinator in the Office of Compliance. And the other one is the DOT guy. And at the end of it, they apparently, with the Plan New Hampshire charrette that I mentioned to you about, we will have probably about 14 to 17 professionals. We all have people from DOT, landscape architects, a variety of high-level people, including DOT. And he said to me, Bill said, this is something that should be part of the Plan New Hampshire charrette.
Okay.
He is the one who's saying that this is an issue. They recognize it. And since we're doing the Plan New Hampshire charrette and they're going to be there, let's talk about it then. So I've already sent it out to the Plan New Hampshire people.
great.
Nice.
Thank you.
When we were reviewing it first time.
I always thought if you just, at the sidewalk at the entrance to the bridge, just put the tip downs in
Yeah.
and do that. Because actually on Sunday, I watched someone cross a crosswalk pulling a buggy. I won't mention names, but they had a buggy full of food and they hit that curve and everything fell out, because there was no lift.
That was Kyoko.
I know it was, but I wasn't going to mention names. So,
She was sad.
so
So anyway.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, there's a technique to getting the buggy up over the edge of the sidewalk, but
she had the
that
speed.
wouldn't work for a wheelchair.
She had the speed.
Where,
You have to
She
get.
didn't have the
going
lift.
fast.
She didn't have the lift.
Questions for me?
Now, did you say Kevin Russell? But you said Wiesen or something. Oh, is it-
Craig Weissman, who is one of the owners of Winnisquam
Oh, yeah,
Market.
Winnisquam, okay.
Kevin Russell is going to come talk to us about Caleb Hill. Okay.
Cumberland Farms has one of the advertisement signs on the front
So
wall.
those are all good things that should come up at this Plan New Hampshire charrette. Oh.
They just
Oh.
put it up. So what happens is they pull sign like this.
Oh.
So when you're going the road, unless you're.
It's usually
I
like
don't
their
remember.
monthly advertisement, whatever the
I
monthly
don't
special piece
even
is.
remember that.
So,
It may
Where?
for me.
at Cumberland Farms.
Oh, Cumbies, yes. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Yep,
Makes it okay and they.
yep.
That was the other guy. We could talk to this chief.
The downtown parking
So
is,
can I just
Go ahead,
circle
finish.
back? And
Yep.
so is that consensus? You want me to check and getting that sign moved? Is that what
Hmm?
you're telling?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
safety.
It is. It's,
Blind spot.
Yep,
Okay,
definitely a blind spot.
okay. Go ahead.
Is that just you and Kevin, the downtown meeting?
The downtown meeting or the Caleb Hill?
Parking meeting, downtown parking meeting.
So the downtown parking meeting is with Abe. Why does it say
I mean,
Kevin?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But it just says downtown parking meeting,
So yes,
you
it's,
and Abe,
yes.
got it.
Yeah.
So it's
Um,
not public, okay.
Well, I mean, it is.
I'm good with that.
No, it is public. So
I'll
what,
stay home. No, I'm just kidding.
you're more than welcome to come.
I'm just,
What, so
Engraved
was-
invitation, maybe.
it-
yeah,
It was-
old.
it was, we made up the flyers and the police delivered them to the downtown for all the businesses. I have no idea who will show up. I have been told that there was one business owner that had a solution to everything and therefore there was no reason to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, because I don't do Facebook. I was told about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I know.
And the meeting is going to be at Home Serve, which is the Gaudette's place there at the end of
Grove,
At the end of the bank block.
Home Serve.
Yeah.
Home Serve. Yep.
okay, the
Yeah.
old Elm Grove
Yes, yes.
building.
Yes, because,
Bill Providian Bank.
so
Meridian,
that's where it's going to
Citizen,
be.
and about 5 different banks.
And certainly if any board member wants to attend, I mean, it's open to the public. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Wasn't meant to exclude you.
No, I didn't think it was. I just didn't want to intrude if I wasn't.
Might be busy.
I just heard some very negative comments about it, and I just was wondering if it would be appropriate to come or not,
Negative comments about,
the meeting. No, I don't go on Facebook. I'm just sick of it.
I don't know, what would be negative comments about having a meeting and asking people for their input?
There's no need to have,
Oh, yes, I do. I did hear that. There's no need for it.
and it's not going to matter because they're going to go right back to their old ways because the business owners are going to be out there because they know exactly when the police schedule is. So, and it goes on and on and on. So,
It's more than just
mhm.
that. I mean, it's got to be constant communication. It's got to be about signage where there is available parking. So I understand that people, believe me, having been a Main Street director working in communities, that there are people who just say nothing is ever going to happen, no need, but if we don't try. So. I mean, believe me.
Or you and your objectives 100%.
Right, 6:30 on a Tuesday night, I
I'll
could
be
be
there.
somewhere else.
Pleasant walk
But it's
downtown.
it's a problem with the downtown and we want to fix it,
It
right?
is.
So,
Right, Henri's gonna knock out all the power, so it doesn't really matter.
To enjoy the business.
right.
That was the sole intent.
I can't attend, but
You're going to be in Northfield.
So the fenced-in area where the old auction hall.
It's behind.
Oh, yeah.
It's behind Stephanie Paulus's
No.
place,
Oh, okay.
Nichols and Dimes.
Oh,
This would
okay.
be really, really, really.
Patrol. Yeah,
Panulo?
Yeah.
I have,
And that section of land.
I have a comment on that. Before that gentleman that owns that property, he would like to renovate the top floor of his building. Part of the permissions, I forget what the list of things, conditions, thank you. One of the conditions is before he can fix the top floor, he needs to fix that parking lot. So,
Presently, that's written,
yes,
so, he needs sprinkler up there.
he,
That's part of the.
but before he can start work, the planning board put a condition is you have to fix the parking lot.
And here we are.
Apply parking for it.
Yes.
right.
Yeah, so perhaps he could go and graded that.
John, 5 years prior to that, it was one big hole.
It was a cellar
The
hole.
town of Tilton filled that hole with the understanding that he would have a verbal agreement with the town of Tilton so that we could use it as temporary parking. Once we filled it, he put the fence back up and said, no, thank you. That's where the verbal agreement came.
That's where we are now. That
That's-
doesn't mean,
Well, that's where we were at that.
Yeah.
in that verbal agreement. I
maybe
just-
we can move forward again.
I met the guy, I
Me too.
talked to him a little bit about it.
When-
He liked the
when, because
last year.
I talked to him last year and he said he had no interest. So it was, I think at the time, Catherine had given me his information and I called him and I believe I let the board know this and he said he had no interest. And the other one is before Jim Regan sold his property to the Gaudettes, the Elm Grove, that parking lot there, he was willing to enter into a contract with the town to have that be municipal parking as long as, certain number of spaces could be kept out for his business. So it is something that I intend to have a conversation with Dennis about.
Yeah.
But I mean, if his mind's changed, happy to talk to him. But I'll tell you, when I talked to this guy the first time, he just shut me down.
He likes Catherine. He brings her cannolis from East Boston.
Okay.
There you go.
Missing on the cannolis.
His father's name's Constantino. The sprinkler, in order to get the sprinkler system in, he has to go across the street and tie into the water across Main Street by the church.
Without disturbing the main pipe. I'll speak.
All right, moving on. What else we got?
Uh,
Is that a call for new business?
Well, no, does Jeannie have anything else on here?
I have business.
I know what your business is.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
He's not calling on me.
Don't, I just
I'll
lost
see the smoke come out of her
I'm
ears.
not gonna blurt it out. You just stalling?
Going once, going twice.
Not what it was.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Non-debatable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a nice night. The time being 8:28 PM.
Hey, Gail.
Sorry, Gail.
Have a nice
I had
night,
my
Gail.
mic off.